I did flares in late 2023 and was actually surprised. But let me start at the beginning. So I'll explain to you what flares are, what they are used for, and how you get money from grinding them. But before we dive into the video, if you haven't done already, feel free to subscribe to the channel, as I'm currently in a race to YouTube rank versus CandyPad and Vid. Anyways, let's start with the video. I have to explain a little bit of background story before we can actually go all in with today's topic. In April 2022, Hypixel removed the old Blazing Fortress and introduced the new implementation of another, the Crimson Isle. Besides it being the biggest island we've gotten so far, there were some new things to do. One of these things being the Kudra boss fight. It's the second team-based grind that has been added after dungeons all the way back in July 2020. And oh boy, everyone was hyped. But then we realized we got this.
Doing this boss fight like a bajillion times is on the, I don't want to say boring side, but definitely on the more boring side. So I think they realized that and have decided that that's kind of the plan, which I think is for the better, because doing this a ridiculous amount of times, I don't personally mind it, but to be fair, this is my second time ever doing it. So yeah.
After the first test phase of Alpha, people disliked it so much, Hypixel announced a full revamp before it was even fully released, and they only released the first 2 tiers at that time. But in October of 2022, they revamped the whole fight and made it way more enjoyable. But how did I even end up telling you about this? Oh yeah, right. To get loot from Kudra, you have to unlock the chest with the corresponding keys. The chest from Infernity of Kudra needs an Infernity key, etc. There are 2 ways of getting Kudra keys. One being from one of the 5 mini-bosses on the Crimson Isle, Blade Soul, Barbarian Duke, Mage Outlaw, Ashfang or Magma Boss. But these only get you basic or hot tier keys. The only effective way to get higher tier keys is the second possibility, to buy them off the faction NPC. You can find the Mage NPC at these coordinates, or the Barbarian NPC at these coordinates respectively. To buy the keys, you have to give the NPC either Enchanted Red Sand or Enchanted Mycelium, some coins, and, most importantly, Nether Stars. Due to the Nether Stars and the keys being soulbound, which means you can't trade them with other people, you have to grind them yourself. You get Nether Stars by killing Vanquishers, a wither that has a small chance to spawn after you kill a mob on the Crimson Isle. Killing the Vanquisher gets you 3 stars if you spawned it, and 1, sometimes 2 stars if you loot share it. So obviously people started asking themselves, what is the best way to get Vanquishers? Entering flares. Flares can be found in the magma chamber of the Crimson Isle. If you don't know where that is, you got coordinates shown right now, and I go there in the background footage. They are 3 blazes stacked on top of each other, but they count as 1 flare. Well, unless you use a Gauntlet of Contagion, then it counts as 3 mobs. That's why flares are so good to get Vanquishers. During my test I got over 10,000 kills in 1 hour. With other mobs you end up with about 3 to 4,000 kills per hour. They only had 2 issues. First, you actually need some decent gear to be able to farm them properly. I go over it in just a moment. And secondly, they only drop Gazing Pearls, which can be used to craft shiny prisms, lava shell necklaces and delirium necklaces. They are either annoying to craft, or the profit margin is relatively tight. But what if I told you there's a way you constantly get over 20 million coins per hour? It's all possible with the power of pets. But let me start at the beginning and talk about the gear I used. First up, there's definitely the Hyperion. Yes, it has to be full scrolled, and no, another weapon doesn't work for it as you need the speed of killing. Having the champion enchantment is key, but you should have it properly enchanted anyways. But don't worry, it doesn't have to be maxed. Next up we have to talk about the armor. I used all 4 pieces of a burning 10-star Aurora. The chestplate is reforged to Loving, the rest is reforged to Necrotic, since this combo gets you the most damage. If you struggle with damage, you can also use Wither Goggles. The attributes are also super important. I'm using Veteran and Breeze in combination. While Breeze might sound odd at first, let me show you the power of Breeze. Veteran is used for more combat XP. The more Veteran you have, the higher your combat wisdom and therefore your combat XP is. To be able to use Breeze, you need a hot tier completion or a burning tier completion for Veteran respectively. You want to have the same combination of attributes on your equipment. Most importantly, the Gauntlet of Contagion and the Implosion build. As mentioned earlier, flares only count as multiple kills if you use a Gauntlet of Contagion. Without it you shouldn't even be doing flares. Implosion build just buffs your damage by a lot, so it's also worth getting it. The best way to upgrade these 2 equipments is by using tier 4 attribute shards of Breeze and Veteran. To get those, you either have to play a lot of Kudra yourself, or you have to buy them from other players. Your best shot of buying is via the Kudra Gang Discord. They have a channel called Kudra Prices, where you can check the cost of all shards, and Crimson Trading, where you find people who are willing to sell shards. To buy shards, you have to give the seller an equipment piece on which they can apply the shards to, and you trade it back afterwards. This leaves a lot of room for potential scams and miscommunication. Sadly, we still don't have a better way of selling and buying attribute shards, even after 1.5 years of Kudra being released. Anyways, back to the remaining equipments. I use Molten Necklace and Cloak because it is kinda easy to buy more of those. If you use the chat triggers module Kudra tools, you can run /kt price br5, for example, and get a list of different pieces on the auction house having Breeze 5 as attribute. For example, Molten Necklaces. Now you can click on the message in chat and buy the piece directly. As you might notice, this stuff gets expensive kinda quick. The only good thing is you can use the armor and equipments for all kinds of beasts you grind, not just flares. You also want to reforge your accessories to Bizarre or Sighted, set your tunings to Intelligence, put your enrichments on Intelligence, and set your beacon to ability damage. Don't forget about the Blue but Red Abbey case, as it gets you another 1.5 combat wisdom. Another thing you shouldn't forget about is your Grandma Wolf pet. This also gets you additional combat wisdom if you manage to hold up the combo. Since you don't just want the combat XP but also the nether stars, the best way is to get someone who kills the vanquishers for you. Either you got a mate for that, or you can gently ask in the Crimson Isle lobby or the guild you are in. Most of the times you should be able to find someone. As explained earlier, if you spawn the vanquisher you get 3 nether stars no matter what. Get an epic Kudra pet. It can also be a rare and tier boosted one if you don't have the collection unlocked, as it buffs the chance to spawn a vanquisher by 20%. Also get the Wither Piper perk to tier 5 in the Crimson Ascent shop, as it buffs the chance of getting vanquishers by another 10%. Lastly, we have to talk about pets, since these get us the profits. I ran 2 tests, but let me start with the first one. At first I used the Golden Dragon, because this is what you usually use. When I started my test, it was level 162 with about 522k XP. After 1 hour, it got all the way up to level 166 with about 955k XP. Since every Golden Dragon level over level 100 takes about 1.88 mil XP to level up, we end up with about 8 million pet XP. Keep in mind, you can also use another Golden Dragon with XP share to get another 2 million pet XP, which totals 10 million pet XP. Now for some quick maths. If we take the price of level 200 Golden Dragon without candies and subtract the price of the cheapest Golden Dragon over level 100 without candies from it, and divide this by the amount of levels that are missing, we get roughly 3.9 million coins per Golden Dragon level. Now divide 3.9 million by 1,886,700, which is the amount of XP you need per G-Dragon level, and you get 2.067 coins per XP as a result. Now multiply this with the 10 million pet XP we got from the 1 hour of testing, and we end up with roughly 20.67 million coins. 20 mil per hour is okay, but not great. Back in the day it was normal to get 50 to 60 million coins per hour from flares. Let's see if we can bump our rate a bit. What if we don't take a Golden Dragon as a pet, but rather a pet with a higher margin? Beware, this is not a guarantee it always works like this, but I want to mention it due to integrity reasons. In my case, it just so happened Hypixel recently added 10 red pet skins, which means the demand of those is quite high at the moment. At the time of me recording the video, you can buy a red pet for 850k coins, and the cheapest level 100 without candies is listed for 85 million coins. Let's assume a buy price of 1 million coins for simplicity reasons. Don't forget about the common XP boost, which adds another 10 million coins to the buy price. So you have to spend 11 million coins and get about 85 million coins when selling, which is a difference of 74 million coins. If you use the same math as earlier, so 74 million divided by 25,353,230, which is the XP a legendary pet needs to level 100, we end up with 2.9 coins per XP or 29.1 million coins per hour. Since an XP share costs less than a 50% common XP boost, we can say it's pretty much 30 million coins per hour. Not too bad of an improvement. And before someone says, you can't add pet XP to coins per hour. Well yes, I can. If you go to work, you usually get your wage once a month and not after every hour you've worked, yet you still calculate it on an hourly basis. Same goes for coins from pet XP. You put in multiple hours of work before you get the money, but you can still calculate it as coins per hour. And now have fun grinding, and I'll see you in the next one.